today morning I was doing a lecture in Oberoi International School, and students were asking me how to be more attentive in a class because teachers are always complaining. Students are easily distracted, right? They
Yeah.
and and I was telling them, just doodle, right? I mean, keep a pen and paper near you when you're listening to a class or watching a video. Just keep doodling,
Hmm.
right? And you will see how your attention improves. Now, that's just cognitive science. That's just how our brain is designed, right? When our
Great
motor
point.
functions active,
Yeah.
we are way more attentive, right? Now,
Yeah.
it's very benign, but unfortunately, the intuitive knowledge around it is wrong, right? So if you see a kid doodling in the class, maybe the teacher will find it offensive,
Yeah.
right? When actually they should promote it, saying, guys, doodle while you're listening to me, right?
Hmm.
So now these solutions are counterintuitive, but they work very, very well, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to design environments where these behavior changes happen rather than explain to people, what this is the reason why this works, right? Instead, just design an environment where people behave in that way and they can figure it out later, why their behavior changed.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Aspire and Acquire podcast. I'm your host, Sandeep Suri. Join me for listening to some incredible stories about some of the best professionals from very diverse fields like combat flying, robotic surgery, dancing, tea farming, journalism, deep sea diving, and so on. These accomplished professionals are not just outstanding in their jobs, but also have unique stories to share with us. We have tried to make the show truly global by having these guests from different parts of the world. Every day we make thousands of decisions, some consciously, but most without even realizing it. What if we could understand and shape these hidden forces that drive human behavior? In this episode of Aspire and Acquire, we deep dive into the world of behavioral and cognitive sciences with Anurag Vaish, a pioneer in non conscious design and decision science. As the co founder of Mensa, Talentab, and Final Mile Consulting, Anurag has revolutionized the way businesses, policymakers, and individuals approach problem solving, whether it's financial decision making, education, or leadership. From building AI powered platforms that enhance soft skills to designing interventions that change human behavior at scale, Anurag's work is at the intersection of science, technology, and human potential. In this interesting conversation, we will explore how behavioral insights can shape better learning, smarter business strategies, and even stronger leadership. If you have ever wondered why people do what they do and how to apply that knowledge for real impact, this episode is for you. Turn in now and let's explore the hidden science of human behavior with Anurag. Hi, Anurag. Welcome to Aspire and Acquire.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here, Sandeep.
My pleasure. Okay, you have an impressive journey spanning entrepreneurship, corporate leadership, and deep research in behavioral science. What sparked your interest in this field?
I think behavioral science was incidental. I mean, when we were working in the corporate, so four of us, the people who started Final Mile, three of us were working in Wipro at some point together for 1 year,
Mhm.
and then we split out. But when we met in Bombay along with our fourth partner, Biju, and Biju had a background in behavioral sciences, he had been kind of tracking the field, right? And all of us had read something or the other about behavioral sciences, right? And so you won't believe this, but we just met one evening, and it sounds like fiction, but it's not fiction. We met one evening, it was in the Peninsula Corporate Park.
Mhm.
We sat there discussing for some time that, we should start our own. Behavioral science looks very exciting. The whole marketing failure is just too much to deal with. Conventional marketing is not working.
Mhm.
And next day we started. Like next day we all went to resign and we kind of started our own company.
Oh
Right?
wow!
So
It was that
yes.
quick a decision.
It was as quick as that. It sounds like fiction, but it's not. It was as quick as one evening meeting, and next day we were on. Right. Because the science is so exciting, right? I mean, if you've been in marketing and you've seen how campaigns, products fail, how we have got used to this idea of 1% success rates, right? And you look at all the problems around you,
Yeah.
and you start to begin to think, why are we so comfortable with 1% success rates, right? Why are we not looking at 99% success rates? And I thought behavioral science gave us that little hope, that you could look at behavior change way, way differently. You could nudge, you could think of non-conscious design. And suddenly it was exploding on us. And I think we're in the right time also, because at the time when, Kahneman was getting the Nobel Prize, there's a talk around nudge and these books were coming into play. So I think just things fell into place, and I have nothing to complain, right? I mean, it's been phenomenal for us ever since.
Rest is history, as they say, huh?
I hope the history is still being made, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what were some pivotal moments in your career that led to the founding of Final Mile Consulting and later Mensa and Untapped?
It's a final mile, like I said, right? I mean, because the science was so exciting. I mean, Sandeep, the behavioral science is so exciting that, I've never found a disinterested person, right? I mean, I've sat with the top CEOs in the world, I've sat with bureaucrats and government and everybody, right? I mean, you can just go on and on because it's so revealing of our own ways of thinking, decision-making, behaviors. It's just fascinating. You're once into it, there's no way out of it, right? You just getting deeper and deeper. So it wasn't a surprise that we fell into it, right? Because the moment Biju mentioned it, we were all falling into it, right? How Mensa started is a different story, because in, I think, 2015, 16, there's this person called Bob. He's based out of Atlanta, and he has a company called GMC, Grey Matter Capital. That's a company that invests in education and gender issues, right? And I happened to meet him one afternoon in Bangalore, and I was telling him about our railway stories and the kind of work we've been doing in behavioral sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And he got very excited. He said, we should launch a accelerator program in India on EdTech, and I want you to be the mentor, right, for this program. So I started mentoring EdTech firms at that time. We had some 30 web companies across the globe we were mentoring. And then I had that idea in my mind, that at some point when I'm done with Final Mile, one way or the other, I will get into EdTech, right? So, and having seen Calibrate and having seen all the EdTech programs, I just had a sense that most EdTech is just trying to digitize conventional education, right? If you look at the likes of Byju's, for instance, or Upgrade or whatever else, right? They're saying, can we find a better tutor, a better mechanism to deliver the same content, right? And so when Final Mile got acquired in 2017 by Fractal, and I had finished my 3 years of lock-in with Fractal, right, I was very keen to kind of come back and do something in education. I started building some products, right? So a little bit more of a backstory, Sandeep. So in Final Mile was a consulting design firm, right? So we used to work with clients. We used to give them insights and design ideas, and sometimes even prototype design, right? But we were not the designers of the product, right? And I started to believe, right, towards the fag end of my Final Mile career, that, to be able to design the product is so much better than trying to design the behavior after the product has been made, right? So when you're consulting with companies, they already have their product, their service, or their distribution, whatever else, right? And now they're trying to change behaviors, right? So why not go design the product itself rather than design the communication or the strategies with the product that you have in mind, right?
Yeah, that way there's no force fitting happening, right?
Yeah, the product originally has the DNA of behavior change design, right? So my company that I started is actually called Intem Labs, which is Intelligence and Emotion Labs, right?
Okay.
And as part of Intem Labs, Mensa is one product which is focused on students to help them transition from academics to career. Then we have Talent Tab, which is a corporate-focused product to help young professionals kind of learn the skills, get better employment, so on and so forth. You're working on a product called Bias Lens, which is focused on investor markets and see how investors can manage their emotions and biases better when they're making investment decisions. We have Farmer Focus, which is Farmers Forum, which is a product which helps farmers kind of engage with cooperatives, right, in a more a more interactive way rather than just one-way radios. We work with Sprint Studio, which is a community research platform. So Intem Labs is basically designing products with a lot of behavioral science infused along with technology, right? And that's what we are doing right now. So one thing leads to the other. So talent tap happened because Mensa happened. So
Hmm.
we are seeing so much of success with students. We said if students can become better prepared for interviews, get better prepared with soft skills, can coach themselves with AI and human mentors, then why not corporates?
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
some
that's
of
why
these
we.
products are intertwined, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a
So
lot of
both
sense.
Farmers Forum, Mensa, Talent Tap, they're all built on audio as a technology, right? Saying, can I use audio and AI to create a better engagement, better interactions with between members, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Sprint Studio also is built on the same principles, right? Bias Lens is a little different because that's a very core behavioral science product, but again, we are building a lot of AI into that as well.
Right. Right. So continuing with your professional journey, Anurag, just curious to know, how did your early experiences in decision sciences shape your approach to solving human-centered challenges?
Yeah, so the journey was quite a steep one actually, Sandeep, because when we got into Final Mile in 2006, right, there weren't any examples. In fact, much later we realized that we were the first company in the world to do behavioral science-based design. There was no other company whatsoever, right?
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, I mean, and coming from India, a lot of people used to be a little surprised, ki, how come India
Yeah.
produces in
Right.
that kind of a field, right? So we had to develop the whole process, right? So it's easy to get excited by a science and start thinking, what you can crack the design code, right? And maybe once or twice you will because you have that, the initial enthusiasm, ideas. It's like those directors who produce a great first film, right? And then
Yeah.
they're never able to make another good film, right?
Mm.
So we also realize that we can bake the science and create some quick wins, right? But to be able to consistently use behavioral sciences, non-conscious design thinking, emotion sciences, we have to create the process, we have to create the talent, right? There was no talent available, Sandeep, by the way.
Yeah.
Like all four of us had no behavioral science background, zero, right? So when we
Yeah.
started hiring people from design, research, they had no behavioral science background. So we had to set up systems for training people into behavioral sciences. We started developing process of research, process of strategy, process of design. So it took a while before we really got to a process that could be consistently deployed, right? And
Yeah.
once we had that, then we were willing to even share it with other companies, right? So new companies coming in. We used to tell them how to kind of, do game-based design, how do you do game-based research, non-conscious design. And thankfully, like a lot of companies came, some of those companies got the advantage of us being there going through the rough patch of making behavioral science work consistently, right?
Yeah.
So that was one challenge. The other big challenge, Sandeep, in behavioral sciences is that once you have the solution, it looks too simple, right? By definition, a nudge is supposed to be very subtle, very simple, very embedded. You don't have
Yeah.
to kind of, run $1 million of campaigns to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And then clients used to think, this seems too simple, right? We could have done it ourselves. They couldn't have, right? So,
Right. Right.
so those are some of the challenges, but yeah, I think we set the path for behavioral sciences to
Yeah.
become process-based, practice rather than just a, off-the-cuff consulting, so to say.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. So one of the objectives of Aspire and Acquire podcast, Anurag, is to tell people a little bit about the career, right? So when you speak about behavioral science, and a lot of youngsters, do listen to our podcast as well. So can you just talk a little bit about behavioral science as how if somebody wants to kind of get into behavioral science as a career, one has to have what kind of background, and how do they really kind of do that?
Yeah, and I think my mind has changed a lot around that particular aspect of who should get into behavioral sciences, right? So initially, when we were struggling, I used to start thinking that why not go to top universities in the world, go to LSE, UCL, go to
Hmm.
Brown, Duke, wherever, right? And find people who are well trained in behavioral sciences, cognitive sciences, right?
Yeah.
But later I realized that this science is so evolving. It's so much changing all the time. There's so much research happening, right? That the best way to get into it is to come from another expert domain, right? So a technology person putting a behavioral science lens is way more useful than a behavioral science person trying to become a technologist, right?
Mm.
So we used to kind of start saying, design people, right, get into behavioral sciences, right? Technology people get into behavioral sciences. If your work area is research, go study behavioral sciences, right? Because if you are in advertising for that matter, right, study behavioral science. If you're in PR, study behavioral sciences, because
Yeah.
the way behavioral sciences then shapes your thinking in the domain that you're working in, right? That's the real delta,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if a edtech company is building an edtech product, great, fantastic, build it, right? Now study behavioral sciences, get some application and see how much of delta you can produce, right?
Yeah.
So I've been telling people, right, I mean, do your expertise, whatever you're trying to become an expert at, and then add a layer of behavioral science on it. Far more useful than kind of spending all your time in behavioral sciences academically and then coming into playing a role where you have no expertise which you want to shape with behavioral sciences. Right? You become
Mm.
like a pure consultant, which I think is a little bit of a suboptimal fit, if that may
Yeah.
sound the right word.
That's an interesting lens you have used here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Many organizations struggles. They do struggle with bridging behavioral insights with real world application. What are the most common mistakes businesses make when applying behavioral science?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Sandeep. And you know, so the kind of books that came around behavioral science, we look at nudge as a book, right? If you look at how we decide, if you look at influence and so on and so forth, right? They make behavioral sciences look too simple, right? You can literally read a book and say, what, I've got an idea on how to create a default choice or how to apply a commitment principle or how to kind of use emotions, right? But my learning is that the context is very, 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 very important, right? And sometimes it used to take a lot of effort for us to help clients understand that you can't import a solution that works in a context and put that in a big context and expect similar results. That's not how it works, right? So the kind of solutions we did for railways and the work we did around trespassing deaths and minimizing those deaths on railway tracks in Bombay,
Mhm.
you can't use those principles to kind of make roads safer. It doesn't work, right? So intuitively, when you look at it, say, oh, this principle you applied in railways and look how the deaths have reduced. Why don't we use a similar design on road design? But it doesn't work. So what you
Mm.
do with credit cards doesn't work in insurance. What you do with sanitation doesn't work in maternal health care. What you do with HIV doesn't work with tuberculosis. So this idea of getting people to find nudges, find design, which is absolutely pinpoint suited to a context, right, rather than imported from some other context. To my mind, was the biggest amount of education that I used to do with clients, and I think they used to get it. But there's always this temptation, that I saw something over there. Why can't we plant it here?
Yeah.
Some people do it also. A lot of people do it. Right? There's a lot of that kind of consulting in behavioral sciences where people, see some design and then just try importing it in other situations. But that's what destroys the credibility of the science also, because that doesn't work.
Yeah. So I guess, one size fits all doesn't work here. And contextual knowledge is very, very critical.
Very critical, right? So you look at the principle of choice architecture, right? For instance, most people think that compromise is a great design, right? So if you have to
Mm.
choose between three products, A, B, C,
Yeah.
A is a very expensive product, C is a cheap product, B is a mid-price product, right? You can't buy a expensive product because you don't have the money.
Mhm.
You don't want to buy the cheap product because you're quality conscious. So typically you compromise and buy B, right?
Right.
That's a compromise design of choice architecture, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the only design of choice architecture. There's also a dominance design where you can get people to buy A. There's also another design where you can get people to buy C. It's all about the context in which people are making
Yeah.
decisions, right? And that doesn't happen. So you look at compromise as the strategy, right? Let's give people three choices and people will eventually pick the mid choice. That, to my mind, is the worst possible way of using behavioral sciences to drive good choices.
Yeah. Okay. In today's fast paced digital world, attention spans are shrinking, as we all know. How do you see cognitive science influencing user engagement and decision making in digital platforms?
Yeah, so It's interesting again, right, Sandeep? Our attention spans are decreasing doesn't mean our absorption capacity is decreasing, right? I mean, we are getting more and more used to this idea of a scanning with equal, outcomes as compared to reading for that matter, right?
Mhm.
So, you do a Google search, you get so many outputs, and suddenly people know what to click on and how to get to the next thing, right?
Right.
Now you might be thinking, oh, these guys are making bad choices because they're scanning, they have less attention, they must be making poor choices, but that's not true, right? So with the kind of products you're dealing with, I think our cognition is reshaping to work with attention deficit to some extent. I think there isn't enough time. There's so much distraction. But like I said, more distraction doesn't mean you're making bad outcomes or bad choices in the limited time, right?
Mhm.
But if you have to improve attention, right, there are many, many ways to do it. Today morning, I was doing a lecture in Oberoi International School, and students were asking me how to be more attentive in a class because teachers are always complaining. Students are easily distracted, right? They
Yeah.
and I was telling them, just doodle, right? I mean, keep a pen and paper near you when you're listening to a class or watching a video. Just keep doodling,
Hmm.
right? And you will see how your attention improves. Now, that's just cognitive science. That's just how our brain is designed, right? When our
Great
motor
point.
functions active,
Yeah.
we are way more attentive, right? Now,
Yeah.
it's very benign, but unfortunately, the intuitive knowledge around it is wrong, right? So if you see a kid doodling in the class, maybe the teacher will find it offensive,
Yeah.
right? When actually they should promote it, saying, guys, doodle while you're listening to me, right?
Mhm.
So some of these solutions are counterintuitive, but they work very, very well, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to design environments where these behavior changes happen rather than explain to people, what this is the reason why this works, right? Instead, just design an environment where people behave in that way and they can figure it out later, why their behavior changed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's switch gears now. Anurag, keen to understand Mensa and Talent Tab a little more deeply. So they, as I understand, they focus on skill building through live audio and AI-powered assessments. What inspired this model, and how is it different from traditional learning platforms?
Interesting, right, Sandeep? I think my, first insight in this space was about speaking, right? And I used to tell people, right, that we don't allow kids to speak, right? There is
Hmm.
no opportunity, right? And at homes, we'll tell kids, listen carefully to what I have to say, not speak carefully, right? Look, adults are speaking, right? You shouldn't intervene, right? Schools are anyways designed for not speaking, right? You're supposed to listen
Right.
to a teacher,
Yeah.
videos, YouTube. Everything is designed for listening, right? And it's great. I don't have a complaint with the idea of listening. I think it's very important. And it's one of those sure short ways of being academically bright, right? But unfortunately, the real world, right, of interviews and customer, like you and I, right, we are not
Yeah.
writing to each other. We are speaking,
Right.
right? The same thing happens with customers, with your employees, with your team, with your superiors, with bosses, everywhere, right? People are speaking, right?
Yeah.
And we don't give that opportunity to kids. And then when they land up in an interview and don't do well, we say they don't know. Probably they know. They just never got a chance to speak and show they know. Right. So the initial
Hmm.
idea of Mentor was to create a platform where there is 100% opportunity to speak. Right? So I didn't give a damn
Hmm.
who is on the platform, right? It could be the president of the United States sitting on my panel, right?
Yeah.
And cannot stop anybody whatsoever from getting into the conversation as a speaker. Nobody. 100% permission, right?
Hmm.
So we wanted to create a platform where people came and spoke with mentors, with peers, with experts, right? Rather than just listen. And by, we added a lot of AI tools now. So, people can go and practice interview with AI. They can do soft skill assessments with AI. They can do technical coaching with AI. They can do whatever they want with AI, as much as they can also kind of speak to human mentors on the platform and learn from that, right? So that's the idea of Mensa. We kind of got to IIT Delhi, we got to Hindu College, we got to Jaipuria, IISER, SMS, this, that. So many different colleges, they adopted our program. They gave it to their students. They're already seeing the benefits of it, right? And now the idea is to get to every college possible and make sure that students are ready for their careers, right? The
Hmm.
talent tab, on the other hand, is just an extension of Mensa saying if this format of AI, right, where AI conducts interviews, AI does assessments, AI does coaching. Can we put that into play in corporates where there is mass scale hiring? So rather than people biases coming into hiring or CVs getting rejected because there is no time to interview so many people, right? Why
Hmm.
not use AI as a way to interview? Why not use AI as a way of screening? Why not use AI to onboard people one is to one rather than put 1,000 people in a hall or in a seminar hall and onboard all of them together, right? Why
Hmm.
not coach them with AI? Why not assess them with AI? And that's what talent tap is right now.
Yeah, so that's a good segue to my next question, Anurag. With AI increasingly shaping how we interact with people and learn, how do you see the balance between human intuition and AI driven insights in talent development?
Yeah, so it's a forever question, and I don't think that question is going to go away for the next 10, 15 years, right? Till we really
Yeah.
figure out which way we are going, right? But personally, right, I'm very bothered about interview practice, for instance, right? So if you go
Mm.
to colleges, every college will tell you, we do so many seminars, we get experts to tell you how to practice for interview, how to manage your etiquette, your manner of speaking, this, that, right? But that's like, making people stand outside the swimming pool and giving them lectures after lectures, right? And you never get to swim. Right now, no matter how much college wants, right? If they have 1,000 students, how do they give the 1,000 students 10, 15 mock practices, right, before interviews happen? They can't do that, right?
Mm.
So in some ways, we are complementing the efforts of the colleges and universities. They are bringing experts, they are giving them the directions and all, but we are providing them the swimming pool where these people can swim as much as they want to. They can do 40 laps on Mensa, but they
Right.
can't do 40 mock sessions with any expert, not even one person, forget about 1,000 people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we are currently seeing ourselves as complementing or scaling their effort rather than replacing them. That's not the idea to begin with.
Yeah. And especially, I guess, where the mass recruitment is happening, this is a very handy tool because there are loads of companies who are kind of hiring in hundreds and hundreds every month, right? So obviously, I mean, this is going to be such a beautiful tool for them if they want to use it and they start using it. This is definitely going to be increasing their efficiency as well.
Oh yeah, and biases, right, Sandeep? I
Yeah.
mean, look at somebody who was supposed to hire 100 people in 3 months, right, or 1 month, right?
Yeah.
Look at the fatigue level, right? Look at the bias they have
Yeah.
with good voices, bad voices, city level, this, that, whatever else, right? I think AI is untiring, right? It is fair, it is consistent. It doesn't give a damn whether your quality of voice is, of a singer quality or if you're hoarse, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's way more fair, and I think the way we go down tier two, tier three towns, I think this bias comes into play a lot, and I'm hoping that with AI we not only bring efficiency and savings to the organization, but we also improve the quality of recruitment. We give the last person in the queue an equal opportunity to express how good they are at the work, right?
Spot on.
Otherwise, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You have applied behavioral science in diverse sectors: finance, public policy, education, and health. Which sector do you think has the most untapped potential for behavioral interventions?
I think healthcare is very, very big, right? Because
Interesting.
so much of our biases, right? I mean, any sector where risk is a very inherent property of it, right? So road safety, for instance, India is the capital of road accidents, right,
Yeah.
across the world, right? And we used to love doing work on road safety before ILFS went down. We used to do a lot of work with ILFS's road programs, right? But doing safety programs, healthcare, which is again risk, right? Ultimately, all the preventive, curative choices you're making in healthcare, right? They
Yeah.
are an assessment of your personal assessment of risk, right? And you take the risk, you don't take the risk. Like Corona, people who wanted vaccination don't want vaccination, right? It's an assessment of risk in some ways, right? So wherever risk is inherent, whether it be credit utilization, whether it be about maternal health, whether it's about managing your tuberculosis, managing HIV, road accidents. I think all of those sectors are very, 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 very well designed for behavioral science interventions. I
Mhm.
personally like education because I think education is a space where AI, along with behavioral sciences, can dramatically improve outcomes, right? I mean, the quality of teachers, the quality of infrastructure, the outreach of our programs in smaller town villages. I think AI, along with behavioral science, can be a game changer in that space.
Yeah. Okay. One last question before we let you go. If you could make one behavioral science principle mainstream to positively impact society at large, what would it be and why?
Wow, one behavioral science principle, right?
Yeah.
And I think since you mentioned the word society, right? So I'll kind of talk to society. I think, the principle of reciprocity is beautiful, right? And somehow we still don't get it, right? And I think if we start believing in this idea of tit for tat reciprocity, right? You do good to me, I'll do good to you. And if you do good to me, I'll do good to somebody else, and that somebody will do good to somebody else, and then somehow it will come back to you also, right? I think if you could make this principle of reciprocity more widespread, right? I think we would have less chaos, less violence. We'll be more cooperative. We'll be more collaborative. We'll be more coordinated. We'll be more harmonious, right, in our behaviors, right? And
Sure.
I think we'll be more fair and more easy in our lives, right? And I think societies are built on reciprocity. It's just that we are not, consciously deploying it in many, many places where we should deploy it.
Oh, what a fascinating deep dive into the power of behavioral and cognitive sciences. This conversation has given us invaluable insights into how science, technology, and human behavior intersect. As Anurag highlighted, whether it's building future ready skills, transforming leadership, or designing better systems, the key lies in understanding and not just what people think, but how they think, consciously and subconsciously. If you found this conversation insightful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. And if you want to keep exploring these ideas, follow Aspire and Acquire for more inspiring conversations with thought leaders like Anurag. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shaping the future with knowledge in action. Cheers.
This time in our recommendation section, we bring you an eye-opening documentary about one of the biggest data privacy controversies of recent years, the Great Hack. It exposes how Cambridge Analytica harvested Facebook data on millions of users to build psychological profiles and influence elections. Happy watching.